Hello and Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to start a series on cloud security walkthroughs done on PwnedLabs. Cloud security is an rapidly emerging field, and PwnedLabs has appeared in the industry of cloud security as a good playground for practicing cloud security. Either it is red team or blue team. So I will be doing walkthroughs of labs on cloud security, and primarily I will begin with Azure labs, and then I will move towards other cloud vendors. I have solved these labs before, obviously recording this video, but I will keep the walkthrough as close as possible to the real life scenario and challenges. I hope you will guys enjoy this one. So today we have Azure Blob container to initial access. The scenario is that Mega Big Tech have adopted a hybrid cloud architecture and continues to use a local on-premise Active Directory domain as well as the Azure cloud. So they are having a hybrid cloud architecture. They are wary of being targeted due to their importance in tech world and have asked your team to assess the security of their infrastructure, including cloud services. An interesting URL has been found in some public documentation and you are tasked with assessing it. So this is the URL. Let's begin with it. We'll open this one here. So you can see this is a web portal, not really responsive, but doesn't matter. We'll look at the source of this web page. Maybe I should open via view page source. And here you can see that this style sheet, this CSS style sheet is being opened from this URL, which looks like something relevant to Windows and Azure. So this is mbtwebsite.blob.core.windows.net, and then follows the $web/static application, blah blah blah. If we open it, so this is a CSS file. So blob.core.windows.net suggests that this is a storage account, a blob storage account, and to further verify this, we can call this URL using PowerShell and look at the headers maybe. So for that we can invoke web request -URL. I can do this instead. So what we are doing here is that we are invoking a web request to this URL, and then we are piping this to select object and then expanding the headers property to look at the headers returned by this web server or whatever you can say. So here we'll see what happens. Here you can see that this is XMS version, okay, so which is 2009, and server is Windows Azure Blob, which confirms our hypothesis that this is an Azure Blob service, and the API version is 2009-09-19. So that's it. The next thing that we will do now is that we have to, or we can list the blobs in this storage account. So the structure that this storage account follows, or this URL follows, is that MBT website is the name of the storage account, blob core windows.net is the Windows URL for storage accounts, $web is the container name, and index.html is the file in this container, or you can say the files that are being served on the web app are being served from this web container. So let's list the items in this web container, and for that we have some APIs. You can just go online and Google. I have already opened this documentation from Microsoft here. This is very helpful. So for listing the items in the container, just go online and search for list blobs, and you will have this documentation right on the top of search results, which states that this is the URL that you need to follow which looks like here comes the account name, then the blob.co.windows.net and your container name, and then question mark. These are the get parameters that we need here probably. So first of all, let's remove this CSS thing and this thing. Okay, resource not found. Interestingly, if we do not specify those get parameters here, it won't list the items in the container. So we have to specify these get parameters, and here, okay, yeah. So these are the items listed. We are using the REST API to list the blobs in this container. So here we have index.html that we saw, the CSS file that was being loaded on the web app, on the web page, and some JavaScript files and some more JavaScript and CSS files. Yeah, so something that interests us here, just the JavaScript and CSS static files. So what we can do here is that we have listed the items in the container, but there is one thing in Azure which is known as versioning. So you can specify the versioning in your Blob storage account, and what that will do is that each file in your Blob, each file in your storage account will have different versions of it. For example, if you have one file that you edit, then the version that was before the editing will be saved as an older version, and you will have newer version as a separate copy. So it works like a point in time recovery for your files, so that you can recover to some old versions of your files. So if that is enabled, then you can look at the older versions, and that can contain some sensitive information. But the question here, I have opened this documentation as well, which explains this in more detail. I'll attach these links in the description. So the thing is that we are having here CSS files. Obviously, if there are any older versions of CSS files, then there is a lesser possibility that it can contain some sensitive information. But one thing more that this blob versioning does is that if you delete the file, it stores the older version in the storage account still there. So the deleted file is still stored as an older version. So there is a chance that there existed some file that got deleted because of whatever reason, but we can recover it due to the versioning feature of Azure storage if it is enabled. So we'll try it. To do so, we have to pass some URI parameters, and the URI parameter that we are interested in is this one, include and with versions, so that we will be having the versions included in the output that we are seeing here. So let's give it a try. Include versions. Okay, so this is saying that value for one of the QD parameters specified in the request URI is invalid. And why is it so? It is because the API version that this storage account is using is very old, which is 2009 something. Here this is specified in x-ms- version, and it is 2009-919. But if we look at this list blobs documentation, the versions feature came in 2019, so obviously it won't be available in the API of 2009 version. So we can specify the latest version or this version of the API, but that won't be a possibility using the web thing, because we have to alter the headers sent to Azure. We can do it via PowerShell or command prompt or terminal, whatever you want to use. So here we'll go to, so let's do it. So curl -h, it's x-ms-version, and the version that we have here is 2019-12-12. 2019-12-12. Okay, and here we want to send this URL. Okay, let's try. Yeah, so we have some XML output here. We can store it in an XML file and then use some XML parser to beautify this or something, but we can also use some tool like XML lint format dash less. Okay, so we can see here we have index.html file with a version ID. So this is the version that is available in this blob storage, the latest one, I believe. And here we have scripts-transfer.zip. This is the file that we didn't see while listing the container items here by web portal, and it has this container ID, version ID. And other than that, we have some static application CSS and some other CSS and JavaScript files. So this zip file is interesting. So what we can do here is, let's copy this version ID, because we will be needing the version ID to download this scripts-transfer.zip file from blob storage. Okay, nano version ID. Okay, so now we want to download this scripts-transfer.zip file, and for that I guess we will be so we will be specifying scripts transfer.zip and version ID is this. Okay, so enter. Okay, this is a binary output, so just give a name of the file, file.zip. Okay, so it's downloaded. Let's look at the zip file. So here we have two PowerShell scripts, one with the name of entra users.ps1 and stale computer accounts.ps1. Let's look at this one. Okay, so this one is importing the required modules. Then we have some hard-coded credentials here of Marcus, and the password is the Eagles12345. This is defining the Azure AD credentials, authenticating to Azure AD, and then define the Microsoft Graph API URL and retrieve access token, then create headers, retrieve user information, and last sign in time using Microsoft Graph via PowerShell, output the response, convert to JSON. So this file looks very interesting. It has some hard-coded credentials and it is communicating with Graph API. So let's see, let's try executing this file and see what output it brings to us. Okay, it's taking some time. It shouldn't take this much time, but let's see. Okay, the specified module msal.ps was not loaded because no valid module file was found in any module directory. Okay, so we have some output here. There's a list of users in the entra tenant. So interestingly, the credentials were valid in the script that we found, PowerShell script. So this has been authenticated in our PowerShell session. So we have the valid credentials to Entra. Now what we need to do to get the flag is get as the AD user. What this will do is that this will fetch the details of our signed in user, which is the one that we got from the script. We executed the script, the session of this user got stored in this PowerShell session, and now we are trying to get the details of this user. Get AZAD user is the commandlet used for this. We are getting it for the signed in user, and then we are passing this output to format list, shortened for FL, to see the output. And here we have the flag. So Marcus Hutch is the display name. We have compromised this Entra environment with valid set of credentials, and we can do whatever we want to do with these credentials in the Entra environment and escalate from here. So this is pretty much it. Pretty basic lab using the storage account URL. We could utilize the versioning of Azure Blobs, and then using versioning we went back to deleted sensitive files that contained hard-coded credentials. We executed that file. It returned us the details of all the users, also the valid session of the Marcus user, and we have compromised this Entra. And as far as the fixing of this thing is concerned, so we should be disabling the access, the anonymous access and the listing to the storage account, and we should also not be hard coding the credentials into the scripts like this. So that's pretty much it. I hope you like the walkthrough. I'm awaiting the feedback, and more labs will come in future. Thank you.